spiritual light upon the earth, but he just divided that light from the darkness. So in other words, he didn't rebuke the darkness. He didn't cast out the darkness upon the earth. The darkness is still upon the earth. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's still upon the earth. It was upon the earth then, it's upon the earth now. In fact, in the Garden of Eden, how was it that Satan was able to speak to Adam and Eve? Yes, they were in the Garden of Eden, and yes, they were in paradise, but how was it that the enemy was able to speak to them, and how was it that he was able to still function in that dimension? Well, because the darkness was just divided from the light. Do you understand what I'm saying? So even today, when you go into that realm of in sleep paralysis, you go into that zone of darkness, that place of Satan, that dimension of the kingdom of darkness, and this is why you feel that death grip you. You feel the presence of that world, which is darkness, which is death. So again, understand that that is the world that we're in. This is why, again, so many things happened, and and this is a fallen world because of sin. But I also want to go to through some other scriptures, because sometimes, even when you do have these experiences, sometimes you see things. Some people see visions. Like I've seen visions when I went into this experience. And we can go to Genesis chapter 15, Genesis chapter 15, verse 12. Genesis chapter 15, verse 12, and we'll see the same instance happening to Abraham. Now watch what it says. This is when God tells Abraham to sacrifice something. He gave Abraham specific instructions on what to sacrifice, and Abraham, he gets what it was that God told him to sacrifice, and then God shows up in this unique way. We'll start at verse 12. And when the sun was gone down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, and horror, a great darkness fell upon him. Now notice what happens. Listen to what he says. A deep sleep fell upon him, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. Now to me, this sounds like the sleep paralysis. When that darkness creeps upon you, it falls upon you, and you feel the horror, and you feel that place, you feel that consuming darkness. But listen to what happens. God still speaks to him in this. He gives him a vision. He gives him instructions about something to come. If we go to, okay, look what it says in verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward they shall come out with great substance. Now look at what happens in verse 15. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, thou shalt be buried in a good old age, but in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Okay, verse 17. And it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, the smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between the pieces. Now again, let's just deal with this. We see that this great horror fell upon Abraham, but then God speaks to him. He gives him a vision about something ahead, something in the future. This is why I say with these experiences, it really is a blessing, because it's all still God revealing truth to you. He's revealing truth to you. Even if it's just the truth of seeing a demonic spirit or feeling their presence, just the fact that you're seeing them, should allow you to understand what's really going on in this world, because majority of people don't, really are blinded from the reality of what's going on in the world. But notice in this place of scripture, God gives Abraham a glimpse of something to come ahead in the future. Just like how I told you how when the time where it's happened to me, I still felt that same, I still felt me going into that zone, but I saw something that was going to happen in the future. I heard me speaking to people as an old man. So It's many different things to be said about these experiences. Another place of scripture that I want us to go to is Job. There are several scriptures in the book of Job that speaks about this as well, that I think are very significant when we begin to look into this as concerning the dark shadow figure, this demon or this dark figure that people see when you go into this zone. This it's actually all through the Bible. When you hear the Bible speak about the shadow of death, the shadow of darkness, this is what I believe it's talking about. It's talking about this spirit. So if you go to Job, we can go to Job chapter 3. Go to Job chapter 3 and verse 5. All right, now listen what it says. Let darkness and the shadow of death stain it. Let a cloud dwell upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. Now at this point, Job is extremely frustrated. He's going through some extensive hard times and extensive pain. But we do understand that what is actually happening is that he is under spiritual attack. We do understand that, you know, the enemy went to God, Satan went to God and asked if he could, you know, actually God told Satan, have you considered my servant Job? And so then God gives permission to the enemy to afflict Job. He just couldn't kill him, but he did give permission to him. So these things that Job begins to say, even though they're at a place of grief, there is great revelation truths in everything that he's saying. But he shows us something very, very important in verse 5. Even though he's going through extreme depression and sadness, listen what he says. Let darkness and the shadow of death stain it. Let a cloud dwell upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it. Now there have been instances where I've seen this cloud, this grayish, like foggish cloud, that was some type of principality or spirit or something. So when he says this, it then brings me back to those experiences that I've had with seeing the shadow man, and also this cloud of darkness that is all demonic as well. Let's go to Job chapter 12. Let's go to Job chapter 12. Job chapter 12 verse 22. Now listen what he says. He discovereth deep things out of darkness, and bringeth out to light the shadow of death. Now see, this is very significant, because listen to what Job says. He discovereth deep things out of darkness. Now there's so many revelated truths out of this passage of scripture, but I just want to deal with the point. He says that he discovers deep things out of darkness. Whenever you go into that zone, when you go through this sleep paralysis and you go into that dark place, that is God showing you deep things that are extremely deep. Great revelation. Again, it's all mysteries being revealed. It is all secrets being revealed and manifested to you. So I consider it a blessing, because it just allows me to understand more and more about what's going on in this world. He discovered the deep things of darkness, and bringeth out to light the shadow of death. Now listen what he says. He bringeth out to light the shadow of death. Now again, for those of us that have seen this shadow figure, notice what God is saying here. He's saying that he bringeth out to light the shadow of death. In other words, he allows you to see this and to have this experience